Good evening, ResiTuber. The Sermon on the Mountie. Oh dear. We shall see. As I said earlier, the pendulum is now swinging fast and hard. So there's a lot more of their agendas are teetering on the edge of collapse if they haven't already gone into an inevitable collapse like the scamdemic has. They're going to try and salvage as much as they can out of it, obviously. So it's not as if the use of a medical threat is going away anytime soon. And if they keep bolstering things like the global pandemic treaty and other things like the public safety bill shit that they're trying to bring in here in the UK, it is still going to keep developing in that way for them. And then they'll just come back and try sticking it on the population yet again and hope that they forgot the so-called mistakes from the beginning of the pandemic, scamdemic. That was all I got in my notes. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about was the element of the wasting of time. I only wanted to make a quick mention of this. I'm going to play a song as well before we finish up, after we've done the memes and stuff. But I've heard it so many times over the years. People either saying directly or implying that what you're doing is a waste of time. There's no chance that you can beat the system. If there's no chance, how are we still here? We may not necessarily have gotten rid of it, but we've certainly been keeping it at bay for centuries. And it's been steadily building its power, planning its machinations, however you want to pronounce it. And it's now stepped onto the mat in the dojo, and it's trying to show you all its super moves, but it turns out that it's not really got the key. It's not really made the connection with the true core of what a genuine martial art is all about. So it's got all the gear and no idea is another way to put it, because they seem to think that people can be treated like machines and that they will just bow their heads and put up with it and accept it. It's just not reality. Throughout history, people have shown that again and again and again. I think the only real mistake that still keeps plaguing us is the reliance on violence. Even though it's inevitable, it's going to happen in certain places at some points, but the expectation that violence can stop this system, it's never going to work. Performing violence is literally what the system wants us to do. And in the same manner, that kind of Sun Tzu's art of war, of defeating your enemy before they even step on the battlefield, telling you that what you're doing is a waste of time and that you've got no hope of achieving your goals or achieving a better life or whatever, that's the psychological attack. That's the psychological intercontinental ballistic missile. So many times I've heard people saying that kind of shit, while at the same time they're on the internet talking about the same kind of subjects we're talking about. Yet they then want to say, oh, well, you're wasting your time doing that. Oh, you're wasting your time. Then why the fuck are you on the internet talking about that shit? Some people will consider whatever you do to be a waste of time from their point of view. There is that subjective element. We've all got a subjective part of ourselves that we project out into the objective world. So somebody might not like the way you do what you do, so they think it's a waste of time. Or somebody might think that whatever goals you've got are a waste of time, etc., etc. That's their point of view. If they think well, I'm going to refer just to myself. If they think what I'm doing is a waste of time, well, they not only prove that they've got no respect for what I've been doing for fucking years, or they don't understand it, they don't comprehend it. And that's just their choice. If they don't want to do this, I'm not asking them to. They can go and do whatever they want to do, and they can present it in their way of talking about this kind of stuff, if they do. If they don't, if all they want to do is stay at home and not do this, fair enough, do that. Yeah. But you're wasting your breath every time you try and tell me that it's a waste of breath. And you don't realize your own contradictions, yeah. Beside all that kind of stupidness, if it was such a waste of time, how did we get to where we are now? Where now, a lot of the things that 2 years ago we were very vocally described as conspiracy theorists, and yet now, on a weekly basis, things that we talked about 2 or 3 years ago are being admitted in the mainstream because they can no longer cover them up, and their bullshit excuses about what was going on, their gaslighting, etc., has all fallen apart. So the only thing they can do is damage control and try and save something out of the situation to benefit their narrative. So how is that a waste of time? We've helped more people. I shouldn't really refer just to myself in that sense. You know, the people who've been talking about this kind of stuff, including even all the spiritual stuff, the stuff we've been talking about with the energy work, like on the Martin Fleischmann channel, where he's working on that development of the use of natural phenomena to create potentially free energy, or pretty much largely free energy, you know, however you want to describe it. If you think all of that is a waste of time, you're a fool. And you're just fooling yourself because you're continuing to come back and look at the stuff and tell people that they're wasting their time. That just makes me laugh the most. The amount of time I've seen people do that over the years, it hasn't happened for quite a long time. But when people used to turn up in the chat, they'd be like, why are you talking about this shit on the internet? Nobody's going to listen to you. And it's like, mate, you're in the chat room listening to me, telling me that nobody's listening to me. Do you not realize how foolish you sound? Oh, dear. Not even the wisest person can know all ends. Yeah, I'm sort of paraphrasing Tolkien a little bit. But it's something that I think many people get stuck on. Many people get hung up on their projection of what they want the future to be is the only way it's going to be. Yeah, I know it sounds a little bit narcissistic, and it isn't necessarily a narcissistic expectation on that person's part, but it's a bias. It's a thinking bias. Yeah. Not everybody's going to see the same thing in the way that you do, because everybody's got a subjective point of view. Same way as everyone's got an arsehole, you know? They follow you around everywhere you go. You can't get away from them. So you've got to learn to put that into part of your thinking, you know, the fact that everyone's got one. So you don't necessarily see things the same way I do. So, okay, you do your thing, I'll do mine. Yeah. But if you're going to try and dissuade me by just constantly saying, oh, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your time. Well, I'm enjoying myself, mate, watching you wasting your time, telling me that I'm wasting my time. Yeah. And that kind of silliness. Let's have a look at some silly memes.